Welcome to Multiversatile. My name is Jake Long, and today is the Superman anniversary. It's an exciting day, and James Gunn has tweeted about it and Superman Legacy, which we will get to. In this video, I'm also talking about a few other things relating to James Gunn and his upcoming Superman Legacy movie. In the last week or so, we have had a few updates or tidbits about James Gunn and his direction for the DCU. Oh yeah, and Peter Safran is also involved, but James Gunn is the one answering questions on Twitter, and now it looks like Instagram as well. In one post about Guardians of the Galaxy, a fan commented that the worst business that DC could do was to hire someone who advertises the competition. It looks like another fan wrote, "Unbelievable. Now, can you imagine what their movies are going to be like? I think it's a disaster." And of course, in classic James Gunn fashion, he had a great response for them. James responded, "The last thing DC would want is someone who would spend the last 12 years of his life creating a series of films and then turn his back on his last movie. I wasn't hired at DC without everyone on board being very clear and supportive up front and continuously throughout the process." I don't like all of James Gunn's responses, like when someone said they miss Henry Cavill and he said that Henry Cavill was still alive or something like that. There may be more to it, but it was kind of funny but a little cheap. This one, however, is a great response, and honestly it should be a no-brainer. Of course he's going to promote his movie, the movie that he directed. It doesn't make sense for him not to promote it. It looks like these people are mostly just looking to create a negative connotation for James Gunn and his plans for the DCU. It's just ridiculous. It's hard to believe that they can't comprehend his obligation towards promoting Guardians 3. And yes, there is a bit of competition between the DCU and the MCU, but honestly it seems that when one superhero movie does well, it is actually good for the superhero movie franchise as a whole. And speaking of competition between DCU and the MCU, another thing that James Gunn said recently was that there have been talks about an MCU and DCU crossover movie. Of course nothing is planned, and that would be a long way out if ever, but it is kind of fun to think about. And if James Gunn is thinking about that, then he realizes that superhero movies, whether they are from the DCU or the MCU, can boost each other up. I mean, it's not like these movies are coming out on the same weekends. Maybe I'm wrong, but theoretically these studios could end up making the same amount of money, and their movies could be considered essentially equally good. Of course, that's highly unlikely to happen, but they could have relatively the same amount of success as one another. We'll have to see what the future holds though. Right now, Marvel has been on a decline and DC hasn't been able to pull itself back up from its slump. However, I think that 2025 will be a good year for both studios, with Avengers Kang Dynasty and Superman Legacy. That is, if Kang Dynasty still happens in 2025, and Marvel potentially has a few other projects that year as well. Anyway though, I feel confident that James Gunn knows that both studios need to get to a much stronger place before a crossover film can actually be considered. But the fact that he's open to the idea and expressing interest in it is another thing that makes me like James Gunn overall as a producer and director. Now let's move on to another thing that James Gunn has said recently about Superman Legacy, and that is that it is not going to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. Many people have expressed concern that James Gunn will take his, let's say, plucky style that he has with the Guardians and the Suicide Squad and apply it to Superman Legacy. While I'm sure there will be elements in the movie that we recognize as the James Gunn influence, I never thought that he would go into this thinking he was making another Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I still think he'll be able to incorporate some of his humor in there as well as stay true to the essence of a Superman movie. Speaking of the essence of a Superman movie, James Gunn did also say that this movie is not going to be like other Superman movies. He doesn't want to just repeat the same thing that has happened before. Now, I'm surprised there haven't been a lot of people freaking out about this comment. I think most of us understand this to mean that he wants to keep the essence of Superman, but make a few changes here and there. It sounds like Superman himself will be portrayed in a classic way. It gave me confidence to hear Peter Safran speak about Superman. I believe he said something along the lines of, "Superman is kindness in a world that doesn't appreciate his kindness." I know that's not exactly the quote, but I'll have it on here for all of us to look at. I am glad though they're not trying to recreate the Christopher Reeves movies. I enjoyed Superman Returns, but I like the idea of moving forward. Now on to the main topic. Today on Superman's anniversary, James Gunn posted on Twitter a picture of the Superman Legacy script. He also said that pre-production is on its way, so I'm assuming the script is complete, which is awesome. He also mentions the costume design, which is also awesome and exciting. However, I may be in the minority here by saying that I don't want him to wear the red trunks. I'm not talking about James Gunn, I'm talking about Superman. I'm not going to boycott the movie if it happens, but I just think there's enough creativity among costume designers that Superman can have a costume that has that classic feel, but with a modern twist and no trunks. I personally don't have a design for his suit, but I really like the Henry Cavill Superman suits, so I don't think they need to look much further than those for inspiration. Now, I'm surprised I got this far without mentioning Henry Cavill. I'm still going to miss him as Superman, but I'm excited to give the new actor and story a chance. Hopefully people on the internet don't go too hard on whoever this new actor is. Also, one last thing I wanted to say about Superman Legacy and James Gunn. I've mentioned before, I'm happy that James Gunn is going to be directing this movie. I think that's really cool. He has the overall vision. He's a great director, so he can do it. He's a great writer. He wrote the script. And this is the launching point for the DCU. This is kind of setting the precedent. So having said that, I hope that once he has set the precedent with this movie and take a step back and divide his influence evenly among the rest of the projects, allowing the directors to have their kind of own story, but still creating that cohesive universe with Peter Safran. But personally, I wouldn't mind also if he ended up directing 2 or 3 Superman movies, possibly a Justice League movie, but that might be carrying it too far. It just depends, but we'll see what they do. Anyway, though, for now, I am excited about all the plans that they have, and this is awesome news on Superman's anniversary. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Are you excited about this movie, these little tidbits of news? What makes you anxious? What are you worried about? What are you excited about? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and take care.